Hey, I have to admit, I'm a little nervous about this video. Abortion is overwhelmingly accepted in the countries where Undeceptions is viewed and listened to. So it's fair to say that the arguments for abortion, the pro-choice arguments, are dominant, or at least really familiar. But we're going to road test two of the best pro-life arguments and see if they stack up. And if we're successful, I think I might at least be able to convince you that the case against abortion, the pro-life case, isn't as dumb or mean as many people reckon, and nor does it depend on religion.
The pro-choice view, that's the view that a woman has a right to decide what to do with her own body and the fetus inside her body, has a very different ethical starting point from that of the pro-life view. That's the view that we should always seek to preserve innocent human life. And in a sense, these starting points determine where we end up.
The main focus in abortion is not the baby. The main focus is the woman and her body and her right to control both her body and her life, and how having a baby interferes not just with her body but also with her life. What we do then in the pro-choice is we put the spotlight on the woman and we barely mention the baby, because the baby kind of disappears, and we look at the woman, we look at her needs and desires, and we sympathise with her. You know, she's in a situation where she's panicking about things and worried about her future, and in some cases, you know, she might be subject to domestic violence, and we know that women who are pregnant are more likely to be subject to domestic violence. But then if we're pro-life, what we do, we put the main spotlight on the baby, and we say, hey, wait a minute, what do we owe to this little guy?
The Guttmacher Institute, a leading pro-choice organisation, estimates there are more than 120 million unintended pregnancies every year around the world, and 61% of those end in abortion. That's over 73 million abortions in the world each year. Now, that's 73 million babies killed annually, the entire population of the UK every year. The stakes are very high. And I suppose it's because of this that both sides tend to argue from the extremes. Is it helpful for pro-life advocates to focus on late-term abortions when only a very small proportion of abortions are late-term? And is it helpful for pro-choice advocates to focus on, say, young rape victims when the vast majority of abortions are for timing, relationship, or financial reasons?
If you look at the spectrum on abortion, from absolutely no abortion at all, never, ever, ever, even if the mother's life is in danger, to one end, and you look to the other end, absolutely no restrictions on abortion at all. It is just a small thing and the woman's got the absolute right, even if she's 9 months pregnant, you know. Very few people on either side are at those poles. And what you've got in between is a gradation of how restrictive your law should be, but you've also perhaps, I don't think you have got a gradation of ethics. I think abortion is always a very serious ethical issue, but you can have a gradation of law to govern that.
And that brings us to a significant ethical question. What exactly is that fetus? I mean, the word is just Latin for offspring, but what is the status of that offspring when it's still in the womb? Even prominent pro-choice ethicists like Peter Singer accept that it's part of the human species, but he argues that doesn't necessarily give this small human a right to life. Why? Because it's not a fully conscious being, so it's not quite a full person. It's only part of the way there. But Margaret Somerville says we have to define a human person as something more fundamental than mere consciousness. How does she define a fetus ethically?
Very basic. Living human being. Not not living human doing. You don't have to do anything, you just have to be. And then you should attract the protections that go to living human beings. And you see, once you start saying you've got to have consciousness, you've got to be able to do this, if you can't do that, you're not going to get protected. That's not protecting human beings. That's demanding that before you get protection, you must be a human doing. You have to do things in order to win your human protection. That's wrong.
And that's the first point I find myself getting stuck on. It isn't just fetuses that don't have full consciousness or self-awareness or a desire for continued existence. Newborn babies don't have any of that either, nor do coma patients. Are these people not real people with full rights? Pondering this changed my mind about abortion, as did another idea that has nothing to do with whether or not a fetus is a full person. And this idea too has nothing to do with religion.
The key wrong-making feature of killing you or me is that it would deprive you or me of a future of value, a future of valuable conscious experiences, a future of experiences typical of human life. Now, if that's true, if that is the key wrong-making feature of killing, then you have to conclude that that same feature applies for the killing of an embryo, a fetus, any human individual from conception onward, because they possess a future in the same sense that you and I possess a future. Given time and nutrition, they will go on to move into this future of valuable experiences.
There's nothing religious here. No doctrine, no scripture, no gods. There's just logic. If what makes murder wrong is the taking of a victim's human future, that applies equally to babies and to fetuses, both of which, in the normal course of events, will have future experiences just like ours.
I think the abortion debate still rages on. It's because people cannot conceive of what living the good life would mean for women absent abortion.
But I have slowly come to think that pro-choice arguments are so popular mainly because they're emotionally compelling. It's not because they're successful moral or logical arguments. Honestly, I can't see how all of the arguments for killing a fetus in the womb don't apply equally to killing a newborn baby outside the womb. And it's pondering that nexus between unborn and born that really has landed this for me, intellectually anyway. A newborn would have no awareness or fear of being killed by its mother. A newborn isn't consciously desiring existence. A newborn isn't a fully rational person. A newborn is just as dependent on some adult assistance as a fetus is on its mother. And a newborn, of course, can be a huge strain on parents' mental health and financial security.
And here's where the historical parallel really struck me. The normal reasons given today for abortion are the same reasons given in the ancient world for both abortion and infanticide. Ancient Greeks and Romans accepted abortion as a norm on the same grounds that they accepted discarding unwanted newborns. The only people consistently opposed to both infanticide and abortion in ancient times were Jews and Christians. They thought there may be less blameworthy instances of killing a newborn, like when a mum is stuck in poverty or something like that. But it is always wrong to do so because it always takes away that newborn's already unfolding human life. There are less blameworthy instances of abortion too, the example of the young rape victim. But abortion always amounts to taking away a human future just like ours. It is always wrong. For me, this is simply moral logic, not religion. The only specifically religious or Christian thing I want to say about abortion is that Christ died for our forgiveness, no matter how blameworthy we think we are. Let me reassure you, His mercy is greater than our wrongdoing. But that doesn't mean the wrong isn't real.
Hey, this is just a small part of one of our top episodes over at Undeceptions.com. For loads more on this topic, click on the link.